Broken heart after my parents demanded rent, I moved in with my sister, but when I mentioned a boy, her husband snapped. "You betrayed me." I'm Amelia, 17, and for the past 4 months I've been staying with my older sister, Clara, who's 25, and her husband, Ethan, who's 34. Clara practically raised me. Our parents were constantly fighting or too wrapped up in their own chaos to care. When I was a kid, Clara became my lifeline, cooking dinner, helping with homework, showing up at my school plays when no one else did. Even when she left for college, she called me every few days to check in. I'd call her too, and we'd talk for hours about her classes, her part-time job, and eventually about a guy she met, Ethan. She described him like he was straight out of a movie. Thoughtful, romantic, the kind of man who'd bring flowers just because. Hearing about him gave me hope that not all relationships were doomed like our parents. After college, they got engaged, then married 2 years later. I attended every milestone, their engagement party, wedding, even their housewarming. Ethan seemed like the perfect husband, kind and funny, the kind of person who made everyone around him feel comfortable. I saw how happy he made Clara, and that was all that mattered to me. But everything changed about 3 months ago. My parents suddenly decided that if I wanted to keep living at home, I needed to start paying rent. I was working at a horse ranch, a job I absolutely loved. The people were kind, the horses were incredible, and I even got free riding lessons. But the pay was low, and after covering rent, I wouldn't have enough left for food or gas. I told Clara about it during one of our calls. She immediately talked it over with Ethan, and together they offered me a place in their home until I finished high school. They had a spare bedroom, and since Ethan worked from home, someone would always be around. I cried when they told me. I was so grateful. When I moved in, they shared exciting news: Clara was pregnant. I was thrilled for her. She'd suffered 2 miscarriages before, so this was a high-risk pregnancy. The doctor advised her to take things slow and avoid stress, and we all agreed to do whatever it took to keep her calm. Soon after I settled in, another problem popped up. My parents took back the car I had been driving since it was technically theirs. That meant I had no way to get to school or work. Without hesitation, Ethan offered to drive me. He said it was no trouble since he made his own hours working from home. Every morning, he'd hit the gym, shower, grab me a Starbucks drink, and drop me at school. Then he'd pick me up, take me to the ranch, and get me again after my shift. I kept thanking him for going out of his way, but he always brushed it off. During those rides, we talked a lot. At first, it was small talk, school, music, or random stuff. But then he started asking more personal questions, especially about boys. Every day, he'd tease me, saying things like, "You're hiding something. Who's the lucky guy?" He'd wink or laugh, insisting I could tell him anything. I tried to stay vague because I didn't want to share too much. The truth was, there was a boy, Adrian. He was 18 and worked at the ranch. We'd started spending time together, riding horses and hanging out after work. I liked him, but it was new, and I didn't want to ruin it by talking about it too soon. Looking back, there were warning signs I missed. Ethan always seemed to be around when I was at the backyard pool. He'd find reasons to come outside, mowing the lawn, grilling, or just lounging nearby. I thought he was just being friendly. Then there were the nights I'd bump into him in the hallway after using the bathroom. He'd be standing there, wrapped in a towel, saying goodnight. It happened often enough that it started to feel strange. But I pushed those thoughts aside until last week. Adrian asked me out on a real date. I was thrilled and mentioned it to Ethan on the way home. The second I said it, his whole demeanor changed. His voice went cold, his face tightened, and he stopped making eye contact. Then he started grilling me about Adrian, his age, where he worked, whether his parents were around. I thought he was being protective, like an older brother, but when I mentioned that Adrian and I had been talking for a month, Ethan exploded. He started yelling, accusing me of lying to him, saying I'd been keeping secrets. I was in tears, confused by his anger. And then he shouted something that made my stomach drop. "What about us?" Us? What did that even mean? That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time. I barely slept, replaying everything, the comments, the hallway encounters, the questions. Slowly, a horrible realization crept in. Ethan wasn't just being friendly or protective. He was obsessed, but I couldn't tell Clara. Her pregnancy was fragile, and I was terrified that the stress could harm her or the baby. So the next day, I did everything I could to avoid him. I asked a friend to give me a ride to work and told Clara I'd be late because of extra chores. When I got home that night, Ethan was waiting in the living room. He asked where I'd been and why I hadn't let him drive me. I thanked him for all his help, but said my friend would be giving me rides sometimes. He stared at me silently for what felt like forever before walking into Clara's room. That weekend, I kept to myself. I stayed with Clara or in my room, but I could feel his eyes on me. Twice, I caught him watching me. He tried to corner me for a private chat, but I made excuses. By Sunday night, I couldn't take it anymore. Clara was asleep, Ethan was in his office, and I needed air. I decided to go for a walk just to think. There was a quiet spot about 20 minutes away where I liked to sit. I texted Clara that I'd be back soon and headed out. 15 minutes later, my phone started blowing up. Ethan was texting nonstop, asking where I was. Before I could type a reply, the calls began. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hit decline. When I finally picked up, he was furious, yelling, calling me names, demanding I send him my location. I refused. I told him to calm down and hung up. Panicked, I called Adrian. I could barely speak through my sobs, but I managed to tell him where I was. He said he'd come get me right away. While I waited, Ethan kept calling. Then I got another call from Clara's number. I answered, but it was Ethan again, screaming. Adrian arrived just in time and heard everything. He grabbed my phone, told Ethan to stop calling, and hung up. He drove me to his parents' ranch, explained what happened, and they immediately offered me their guest room. They said I could work extra hours to cover my stay. I didn't know how to thank them. That night, I finally slept, knowing I was safe. The next morning, I called Clara. Her voice broke the second she answered. She said she'd heard Ethan yelling the night before, but pretended to be asleep. Then she caught him taking her phone and leaving the house. When he came back, she confronted him, and he lost control. He smashed a chair and punched a hole in the wall before storming out again. When he left, she saw all the missed calls to me, realized something was very wrong, and called a friend to pick her up. She tried to reach me after she left, but I'd already fallen asleep. I apologized for not telling her sooner, but she understood. We both cried, and she told me she'd moved back in with our parents, who, ironically, offered to let her stay rent-free until the baby was born. If they'd made that offer to me months ago, none of this would have happened. Now I've been staying at the ranch for a week. Adrian's parents have been amazing, and I'm working extra shifts. Adrian and I are taking things slow, but he makes me feel safe. As for Clara and Ethan, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm just glad we're away from him. A lot has changed since that night. First, thank you to everyone who reached out with support. Your kindness helped me more than I can say. Clara and I met for lunch last week. She looked tired but stronger. She told me she'd filed for a restraining order after Ethan kept showing up at our parents' house, begging to talk. At first, he tried to act remorseful, saying he'd only been worried about me the night I left. But once Clara mentioned that she knew what he'd said on the phone, his story changed completely. He started claiming that I'd been flirting with him for weeks, that I'd made it all up because I was jealous of their relationship and the baby. Clara didn't buy it for a second. She said that the man she saw that night, the one who screamed, punched walls, and stalked me, revealed who he truly was. Then she told me something that broke my heart. Ethan had been controlling her for years, reading her texts, questioning every call, monitoring her spending, even forbidding her from seeing friends. He disguised it all as concern. When she showed the judge his messages after she left, the restraining order was approved. She didn't tell me exactly what they said, but the look on her face told me enough. Ethan is legally required to stay at least 100 yards away from both of us. When it came time to retrieve our things from the house, Clara's friend Natalie's husband, who's a security guard, came with us, along with our dad. We picked a day when Ethan would be at a work meeting and arrived early. We moved fast, taking only what was ours: clothes, personal items, important papers. Clara left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter with a note saying her lawyer would contact him about the divorce. But just as we were finishing, Ethan's car pulled into the driveway. He wasn't supposed to be home for another hour. My stomach dropped. Dad and Natalie's husband rushed outside to intercept him, reminding him about the restraining order. Through the window, I could see him gesturing wildly, furious but keeping his distance. Clara and I loaded the last of our things and drove off. As I looked back, I saw him standing in the driveway, watching us leave. The expression on his face chilled me to the bone. It wasn't sadness or remorse. It was rage, the kind that lingers. It's been about 3 months since my last post, and I can finally say this will be my final update about everything that's happened. So much has changed, most of it, thankfully, for the better. Clara's divorce from Ethan was finalized last month. The court granted her a permanent restraining order, and the judge took into account all of the evidence: Sophia's testimony, Ethan's mother's statements, and the records showing his pattern of manipulation. Ethan was ordered to pay 1 year of alimony, sell their house, and split the proceeds with Clara. The biggest shock came during the court hearings. Ethan's attorney tried to present evidence that I'd behaved inappropriately toward him, screenshots of texts he claimed were from me and photos taken by the pool. But it didn't take the judge long to realize the messages were fabricated, and the photos had been taken without my consent while I was swimming at their house. That attempt completely backfired on him. It proved everything I had said about him watching me was true. The judge referred the matter to the district attorney for possible criminal charges, for falsifying evidence and invading my privacy. Just 2 weeks ago, Ethan was arrested again for violating the restraining order. Police caught him parked outside Clara's new apartment building around 2 a.m. since this was his third offense. He's now facing actual jail time. His hearing is scheduled for next month, and both Clara and I have been called to testify. Clara moved to a nearby town, about 30 minutes away, and found a cozy one-bedroom apartment. She started a new job as an office manager at a local company. Her new boss knows about her situation and has been incredibly supportive, letting her take time off for therapy and legal appointments. Clara also joined a support group for women recovering from abusive relationships, and she says it's been one of the best decisions she's made. As for me, I'm still living at the ranch with Adrian's family. My parents invited me to come home and said I wouldn't have to pay rent, but I chose to stay where I am. The Millers have given me a kind of stability and kindness I didn't realize I needed. Mrs. Miller has taken me under her wing, teaching me everything about horse care and running the ranch as a business. Mr. Miller has been helping me with college scholarship applications, focusing on schools that offer strong equestrian and agricultural programs. Adrian and I have been officially dating for 4 months now. He's gentle, patient, and never pushes me to talk about things I'm not ready to. We've started talking about the future, college, careers, and what life might look like long-term, but we're taking it one day at a time. I graduated from high school last month. Clara, my parents, and the Millers all came to the ceremony. It was the first time in years that my family had all been in one place without fighting. My parents have been trying to rebuild their relationship with both of us. My mom even apologized for not being there when we were kids and for making Clara carry responsibilities she never should have had. I'm not ready to forgive completely yet, but it's a start. A week later, the police called to tell us Ethan had accepted a plea deal for his repeated restraining order violations. He's serving 30 days in county jail, followed by 2 years of probation and mandatory therapy. It's not a long sentence, but it's something. It means there will be real consequences for what he's done, and his actions will finally be monitored. Clara has cautiously started dating again. She met someone through her support group facilitator, a counselor who truly understands what she's been through. They've only met for coffee a few times, but she says it's refreshing to be around someone who respects her space without demanding anything from her. Meanwhile, I've been accepted into a college about an hour from the ranch with a strong agricultural program. I even earned a partial scholarship. Between that, the savings I've built working here, and a small contribution from my parents, I'll be able to cover my first year without loans. Adrian also plans to attend the same college to study business management, hoping to eventually take over his family's ranch operations. I've kept attending the teen support group, and it's become a huge part of my healing. I've made real friends there, people who understand what it's like to grow up in chaotic homes. We support each other through everything. The group leader told me that after I've been there a bit longer, I could train to become a peer counselor, and I'm seriously considering it. The nightmares have mostly stopped. I still get anxious sometimes, especially in moments that remind me of that night. But I've learned grounding exercises to help, like naming things I can see and touch until my mind calms down. Clara and I talk every single day, whether by phone or text. This entire experience has brought us closer than we've ever been. We made a promise to be completely honest with each other and never let anyone come between us again. Clara says she's proud of how I handled everything, and that I'm stronger at my age than she ever was. Ethan's mother checks in with Clara occasionally too. She even sent me a graduation card with a small gift card inside. She wrote that she admires my strength and hopes I know none of what happened was my fault. It was a surprise, but a kind one. The Millers have truly become like a second family. Last month, they took me on a week-long trip to a regional horse show, where Mrs. Miller introduced me to a few professional trainers. One of them offered me a part-time job during my college breaks. They've opened doors for me that I never even knew existed. Looking back now, I realize how lucky I was to get out when I did. Ethan's behavior was escalating, and I shudder to think what might have happened if I'd stayed any longer. I'm thankful every single day for Adrian, his family, Clara's bravery, and even my parents, who are finally trying to make things right. Life isn't perfect and probably never will be. Clara still mourns the loss of her baby, and I still have moments where fear creeps in. We both know Ethan will be out eventually, but we're moving forward. We've learned to spot warning signs early, to trust our instincts, and to value the people who treat us with respect. And after everything we've survived, that's more than enough. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.